How you doing, everyone? It's Kevin. I'm back with another video. A while back I did a video on a Badger chainsaw, a 40-volt chainsaw. Well, they contacted me and wanted to know if I wanted to do a video on their 26cc 4-in-1 multi-tool. This is a weed eater, a brush cutter, it has hedge clippers and a chainsaw. So we're going to go ahead and get the box opened up. I'm going to check all these tools out and see how they work. Okay, when you get your box opened up, this is what's going to come in your box, and I'm going to go over everything that's here. It kind of looks overwhelming, but don't be scared. It's all self-explanatory, and it does come with an owner's manual and guide here for putting it together. Not a lot to it. It looks like a lot, but it's really not. You're going to have your brush cutter here. This is your brush cutter. This is for cutting heavier brush. And this is your bump string for your weed eater. This is actually a pretty cool head. This is a feed through head. When you run out of string, you just feed your string through there, 6-8 feet, whatever you want to put on there, and you twist it up pretty nice and very fast. I like these bump heads. This is your guard for your weed eater part. Here you have your weed eater shaft. This is your handle for your on your weed eater. This is what you're going to hold on to. We're going to get that put on. This is your motor, and this is the main piece of this whole entire thing right here. This is your motor. It's a 26cc motor. Weight, it's got some weight to it. It's a little bit heavy, but we'll see once we get it balanced out with the tools on it. Then you have your chainsaw. This is for your chainsaw. And what's really nice about this chainsaw head is it swivels. And the same goes with the hedge clippers. You're going to get a bar. You'll get your bar, and this is a 10-inch bar, but you're going to cut about approximately 9.5-inch limbs with this. Nothing too big, but just trimming branches, it's going to work great. You'll get your chain, and then you got a safety cover. So this is your hedge clippers. So you can push down on this, and you can swivel this head too. You can swivel it up or swivel it down, and that's pretty nice for getting up high in places that you know, you can't reach or you don't have a ladder to get to. And then this is your shaft for your hedge clippers, and they also give you a nice shoulder strap to take a lot of the weight of that 26cc motor. So we're going to go ahead and get this put together real quick for you. They give you all the tools that you need to put this thing together. We have the weed eater shaft here, and I wanted to let you guys know this bolt has left-handed threads on it. It is not right-handed. It's left-handed, and you could take, there's a hole on the side of your thing here, just stick your Allen down in there, and then you're going to turn it to the right to loosen it, and you're going to turn it to the left to tighten it. Now, just to put your head on, pretty simple. You're just going to take everything off that was on there, and then spin it to the left. Put your little Allen wrench down in the back, spin it to the left, like so. Now with your Allen down in that hole there, you can give that a nice little snug. It doesn't have to be too tight. So that's how simple it is to put the head on. Now that we have the weed eater head on there, let's go ahead and put on the guard. Pretty simple, the bolts are already there. All we have to do is slide them down in the holes, take the Allen wrench that they provide you in your toolkit, and go ahead and snug these guys up. Pretty simple, eh? All right. Now this part is done. This is ready to work. All we have to do is snap it on our weed eater. Okay, now we're going to put the chainsaw together. So what we're going to do is unscrew this bolt right here on the top, and we're going to take this cover off. Pull the cover off like so. So this is where our chain and bar is going to go. So now make sure when you put your chain on the top, the hook is facing towards the front. If that hook is not facing towards the front, guess what? You have your chain on backwards. And you don't want your chain to be on backwards. So we're going to slide it right in that little slot like so. And make sure this hook right here is facing that way. Because on the bottom, we want them pulling back towards us. So before we get started, we're going to spin this bolt right here in this bond. This is your blade tensioner. This is how we tighten our blade. And we're going to go ahead and spin that guy all the way down in there. So what I was doing is I was spinning this little button right here. We want that all the way back, pretty much as far as we can get it. Okay, now we want to get our chain and bar and go ahead, get it in its slot and slide it down on this. So now that we have our chain and bar on there, I'm going to go ahead and put the cover on this. It might make it a little bit easier to tighten. Now, as you can see, our blade is very loose. Our chain is very loose. So when we tighten up this bolt over here, this is going to tighten that chain. So now we have our chain snugged up there. Then go ahead and tighten up your bolt here. We're still going to have to add oil in this because this chain takes oil to be able to run it. So now we're going to go ahead and put our cover on this. And that's going to keep us from getting cut or damaging the blade. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and set up the hedge clipper. You'll see on this side of your shaft, it's a little bit greasy now. So what you're going to do is slide them two arrows together. The two arrows go together and spin that shaft on that upper end. If you have to, spin this a little bit. You can turn this, and this will help it lock in when you go to put it in its place. Okay, now that we have it locked in there, we're going to go ahead and take our Allen wrench and we're going to tighten this guy up. Okay, now that you got them snugged up, this piece is ready to go. So we have our chainsaw ready to go and our hedge clippers are ready to go. Make sure before using these, get your grease gun out, pump your, you have a few grease fittings to fill. Few pumps in there, it's dry. Same way with your hedge clippers. Right here you got a grease fitting and here you have a grease fitting. Grease them up. Go ahead and put some pumps of grease in them. We give them a few pumps of grease. That way we're not running them dry. Take a rag, wipe your excess grease off. So for the weed eater motor part, this motor part of the weed eater, we're going to go ahead and unscrew the Allen bolts that they have in this. So now that you have your handle apart, take this rubber piece and slide it up on your shaft. Now this is what you're going to hold on to. You'll see there's a little groove in here and there's a groove in your rubber. You want to set that right down inside of that groove. Then take your handle. You have a groove on it also. And then go ahead and snug up your Allen bolts. Okay, all of your tools have this little rubber cap on it, each piece that you have. I would suggest keeping these, and when you're done using the, say, the weed eater, put this cap back on for storage. That'll keep critters from getting up in there, mud masons and different things. So make sure our wing nut is loose. And we're gonna just push in on this and slide this little guy right inside there. Sometimes you might have to turn your head. You might have to turn the head of the weed eater just a little bit to get it to snap in, but it will snap right in there. So this piece is done, and we'll do that the same way with every tool. Now, I filled my gas up with a 50-to-1 mixture in this tank, and I would suggest using a good quality oil. One thing about the Badger blade is it is sharpened on both sides. So if it gets dull on one, just flip it over and use the other side. So you have two sharp edges, one on this side, flip it over, one on this side. When you're ready to put your brush cutter on, pull this piece off, leave this piece on. These will slide off, leave that one on. Go ahead and put your brush cutter up on like so. You want to make sure you put it back on like so, and then go ahead and tighten up your washer here and your nut. And don't forget, left-handed threads. Now you're ready to cut brush. Cool feature with the chainsaw is this little button right here. Pull it up, you have different slots you can set your saw in. Make sure when you fill your oil up, use a good grade oil, chain and bar oil. Okay, the Wild Badger powered weed eater, we tried it all. We tried out the weed eater first, the weed eater part of it first. It worked fine. It was a little sluggish at first, but it straightened out. The more fuel I ran through that motor, the better it leveled out and it sounded good. The second one, we used a brush cutter. I had some branches that were sticking out where I mow, some old brush, and we cut it down with no problem at all. Don't forget, this blade's two-sided. It's sharpened on both sides. You can use it, flip it over, use the other side. Make sure you hang it on something. Get a wire and put through there. Don't lose that nut and that washer because you're going to need it or you're not going to be brush cutting. The third thing that we used was the hedge clippers. And one thing about here on the homestead, we have no hedges. We have small bushes, and it worked just fine for the small bushes, but I don't have a whole lot of use for it here, but I would think maybe if I wanted to cut some small limbs off of trees that might have been hanging over, or vines or something like that, this would probably come in pretty handy. My absolute favorite thing about this thing, besides the weed eater, because that's something I'd use all the time, is the chainsaw. The chainsaw is awesome. The pole saw part of it, this thing ran like a beast, man. I had no issues with it, and I really liked it a lot. And on the homestead here, we got a ton of vines hanging down. They hit the tractor all the time. We got limbs hanging out. This thing is going to be a good tool here at the homestead. Make sure you don't forget to grease your fittings. You've got 2 grease fittings on your hedge clippers and 1 on your chainsaw. You have 1 grease fitting right here on your chainsaw. Make sure you grease them. The only thing I could actually say about this that's maybe a little bit negative is the weight. You have a 26cc motor on there and it's pretty heavy, but you need those cc's, you need that decent sized motor to be able to turn the chainsaw and all these tools that you're using. So it's a bit heavy. They do give you a harness to wear with this. I didn't put it on because I didn't feel like I needed it. So if you have an issue with it being heavy, make sure you put the harness on to help you out. I think that'll help you out a lot. So overall, I think it's a pretty good saw, or a good weed eater. I mean, it's nice having all these attachments for different positions you get in. You know, you get into a jam and you need a set of hedge clippers. Here you go, you got a hedge clippers. You need a pole saw, you got a pole saw, you got a weed eater, you got a brush cutter, all in one. I think it's going to work out great here on the homestead. So listen, we're going to leave a link in the description down below. If you guys are interested in one of these, check them out. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just saying, hey, check them out. I think it's going to be a good tool for me here on the homestead. So, I would like to tell everyone, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment if you'd like. Until next time.